Hello, my Italian food fanatics. Today we're going to make a marinara sauce. It's going to be a very generic sauce, except, I don't know, we may or may not add red wine to it. But other than that, it's going to be very simple, very straightforward, a sauce that can be used for literally anything. But before we go into the kitchen, please hit the thumbs up button. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Doesn't cost you anything. Hit the bell button so you'll get notified of when I release a new video. Share with your friends. Leave a comment down below. I appreciate it. So now, without any further ado, let's get in the kitchen and make sauce marinara. All right, let's get started with our marinara sauce. This is going to be a generic marinara that can be used in multiple applications. I'm going to start out with 100% extra virgin olive oil, organic from California, of course. We're going to add an onion in there. We'll have some garlic. We'll also have a couple of cans of 100% organic California peeled tomatoes. It's important that you wash your cans because they're sitting around in warehouses and you don't know what's crawling on them. So when you open them up, dirt, dust, and animal debris could possibly get into your tomatoes, and you don't want that. We're also going to use 100% California organic tomato paste. We'll add some aromatics in the form of thyme and bay leaf, and then later on we'll go and add a little bit of basil, and we'll finish it off with basil as well. We can also probably add some wine in there. I'm going to use some red wine today, and this is a California blend of red wine. It's very, very fruity, and it will add a nice dimension to the sauce, though it's not necessary. If you are you abstain from drinking alcohol, you can omit the wine and you'll be just fine. All right, let's go to the stove. First, though, before I do that, we're going to have to chop the garlic and the onion up pretty fine. Not extremely fine, but small enough. And then we're going to open these cans up, and I'm going to hand crush the tomatoes. So when we come back, that will all be done. All right, we're now at the stove. I have some olive oil inside of our pot. And now I'm going to add in our onions. Now obviously you can tell from the sizzling that the olive oil has been on the heat here for a little while. It's not smoking. So what we're going to do is we're going to sweat these onions. We want the onions to get a little bit of color, not too much. We want them to break down a little bit. And then in a little while, we'll add our garlic. In the meantime, we can, if you want, add a little bit of salt to help drive the moisture out without really adding too much salt. You want to be cognizant of that because this sauce is going to cook down towards the end here. Once we've added our tomato product and our aromatics, we're not going to season it. We're going to let it cook down, and then when it's done, I still won't even season it. And that's because if you're going to use it in other applications where you're going to be adding, for example, pasta water or reducing it down to make it thicker, then you're going to not want to season it because it's just going to make it too salty. So we're going to make a very generic sauce today. I may not even add the wine inside. I may just put water in there to make it really Italian. Okay? We'll see. I still have to decide. But as of now, I'm going to add the wine because I like the flavor of wine in there. It's not too much, but if you are inclined not to want to consume any sort of alcohol, because not all of it evaporates, then I would suggest not adding any at all. All right, we'll be back when it's time to add the garlic. Okay, you notice that the onions now, they've been sautéing or frying essentially. They're not sautéing in the oil, and I was very generous with the oil, and I'm always generous with the oil because we're going to add a bunch of other ingredients in here as well, and we want that flavor of the olive oil to also permeate. if we just made it with a little tiny bit of olive oil, it really doesn't taste good. I mean, let's face it, fat tastes good. So now that they're translucent and they've broken down a little bit, we'll add our garlic. And in the spirit of being very Italian, I'm going to add in a sprig of basil. I'm going to cook that in there for the next, I don't know, half a minute to a minute. And then we'll add our hand-crushed plum tomatoes. I'll be back. All right, the aroma of the garlic is now prevalent. And so all I want to do also is twist and turn around the pot. And you notice that inside here, where you can't really see, sometimes the onions go up the side and they'll burn. So you want to be cognizant of that. So now let's add in our tomato product. And I kind of want to do this somewhat slowly and gently, because if you don't, you're going to get tomatoes everywhere. And that's what we want to kind of, whoops, sorry about that. We want to avoid that. This is a big bowl, and I'm filming up really close, so it's difficult not to bump the camera a little bit. I'm going to get all of that out of there. One of these days, once I hit some reasonable amount of subscribers, I'll hire a crew to come and film me. But until then, and we'll give it a little mix, and we're going to let this come up to temperature. We're also going to add in just a moment our tomato paste and either water, if you really want to keep it Italian, or wine. And I may add half and half. We'll see. I'll be right back and we'll add the tomato paste. Okay, our pot is on the fire, and I'm going to add the tomato paste into here. We're also going to add our aromatics in just a moment. Now, just because we added basil during the frying phase of the onions and the garlic does not mean we're not going to add it at the end, because I will always at the end add fresh basil. Or, depending on what you're going to use it for, you could hold out and then add other types of aromatics too, depending on what your final use for the marinara sauce is. Let's mix this in. Now that gets very, very thick because of the tomato paste. And so because of that, we want to cook this out, and we want that really deep, rich tomato flavor. So what we have to do now is theoretically thin it out a little bit. So we'll do that with a little bit of wine and a little bit of water. Now this is a California blend. It's very, very fruity, and I kind of like that. If you are stuck with using one type of wine, or you just want to buy one bottle, I would go with Cabernet Sauvignon or Merlot. Although there's nothing to say that you cannot add white wine in there as well. Chardonnay, a very, very woody Chardonnay, would go well here, and would not damage the sauce. So here we go. I'm adding a little bit of water. You want to make it somewhat watery. Water's your friend, because what water does is when this comes to a boil number 1, it will not allow it to stick. It'll be less viscous. It won't be lava. And number 2, because of that,
it allows the tomatoes to cook out and to sweeten up. So look, we have a little bit of a less viscous. In fact, I'm going to add a little bit more water. So we're getting the flavor of the wine in there. And then this is going to allow it to cook out and cook down. And we're also going to add our thyme and our bay leaves in there as well. So we'll let this come up to temperature, to essentially a boil, and then quickly turn it down to a simmer, and we're going to let it bubble away for the next 2 hours. And we'll have our marinara sauce. I'll be back. All right, you can see that our marinara sauce has now come to a boil. We'll now turn down the heat to very, very low. In fact, I'm going to put it on the back burner here. And we are going to reduce that down and let it bubble away uncovered for a couple of hours. And then we'll have our sauce. So there we go. Leave our aromatics in there and just let it slowly reduce down and become of a thick consistency. Again, we're not going to correct seasonings right now by virtue of the fact of what I told you before, that we need to be cognizant of what we're going to use this for, or what somebody else, and this is in a kitchen, in a commercial kitchen, in the main kitchen, you'll have people making sauces all the time, and you don't know what department is going to come and use your sauce and for what reason. So these become generic, and so for that reason there's not a lot of anything added to it as far as seasoning is concerned. It becomes a base sauce that you can change and amalgamate to suit your specific needs. So now that's still a little bit too high. It just needs to bubble a little bit. We'll turn it down some more. In fact, like I said, I'm going to put it on the back burner. We'll come back and taste it when it's done. And you'll see the consistency as well. Right now it's very, very watery. The warmer it gets, the more watery it will become. And so we're going to cook that down. All right, back when we're ready. All right, I just wanted to show you. I have it now on the back burner. You can see how it's just slowly bubbling away. In fact, some people would say that that is too aggressive. But really, for what this is, for the amount of liquid that we've added, it's not that aggressive. If it is, I will turn it down, but that's basically what you're looking for. All right, we'll be back when it's in a couple of hours, when it's thickened and reduced down. Okay, after 2 hours of bubbling away, this is what we have. Look how viscous this sauce has become. As it's cooked down, it's taken care of the acid that was in the tomatoes. They're not going to be that rough. They're going to be more smooth as far as the flavor is concerned, sweeter. So now all we have to do is remove our aromatics and adjust seasoning if we're going to use it for anything specific. Let's take a look at the sauce. See, that's just literally perfect. It could be reduced a little bit more. See that? But for our purposes, for what it's intended for a generic sauce, this is absolutely perfect. All right. So now let's taste. Let's remove these, the aromatics, the bay leaf, the basil, and of course the thyme, and then we'll give it a taste.
Hello, my Italian food fanatics. Well, you saw me spoon it into the bowl. You saw me add the basil leaf to make it look nice. I mean, nothing's more boring than just a couple of spoonfuls of marinara sauce. But anyway, here it is, and we got to give it a little bit of a taste just to ensure quality standards. Yeah, that's very, very good. You see that couple of hours that we allowed it to reduce down actually made it very, very sweet. I really can't describe to you how sweet it really is. There is a sweetness to it. I didn't add any sugar or anything like that. You can't really taste the wine. I mean, it's there, but it's very, very minute. You can taste a little bit of the garlic. You can obviously taste the onion. It does need salt, but remember, the reason why we didn't correct the seasoning was by virtue of the fact that this is a generic sauce. It can be used for a lot of different things, and if it's reduced down or pasta water is added to it because it's going to be used with a pasta, then you'll have something that's going to be too salty. So let me add a little bit of salt here. This is Maldon salt, so it looks like more than it really is because the crystals from Maldon salt are very, very large. And I didn't add any hot pepper, which I normally would for a red sauce. And the reason is because, again, it's a generic sauce. Very good. Now, the only thing that I added that isn't traditional theoretically for a marinara sauce was a little bit of red wine, but it's a very, very fruity red wine that I got, a California wine, of course, since I am from California. And so it adds another dimension to the marinara sauce that I like, that you would never even know that there was any sort of wine in there at all. Anyway, this is really good. I hope you follow the recipe. I hope you make it for yourself and change it. You can do whatever you want. You can even add anchovies, but as it stands, it's completely vegetarian. In fact, it's completely vegan on top of everything else. So please hit the thumbs up button, subscribe, and then hit the bell button, bing, so that you'll know when I release stuff. Share with your friends, and leave a comment down below if you're so inclined. Whoever thought tasting marinara sauce is going to be so good? Again, it's a generic sauce. I like a little bit of heat with my sauce. And the thyme, you can taste a little bit in there as it cools down some. The bay leaves add a little je ne sais quoi. Now you know how to make a marinara. And you can take it anywhere from here. You can add cream to it. You can add butter to it to make that secreto that we, or secreta that we talked about. I made a video about earlier. You can do anything you want. You could use this with seafood. You could make a tomato bisque with this. You could make a cioppino with this, which is what they normally use, marinara sauce. That's a California invention by an Italian. So this base mother sauce essentially can take you anywhere, all right? Now, if you really wanted to make it classic, you wouldn't add wine. But I gave you the reasons why, because I like it. So that's for you. Enjoy. Change it however you want. Add anchovies, add hot peppers, caramelize the onions more if you like. Caramelize the garlic first and then add the onions if you like. Remember, it's your sauce, it's your life. Wherever you are in the world, thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Have a nice day. See you soon. Bye-bye.